People have trouble coming to grips with their problem.
Angela's a great person, but her work was slipping. Everyone tried to pick up the slack, but as things got worse, it was getting harder and harder to keep everything running smoothly.
Co-workers often cover for substance abusers, handle some of their work, make excuses for them, even lend them money. They think they're helping the abuser, when in fact, they're just allowing that person to fall further and further into his or her addiction.
You don't realize you have a problem right away. In fact, it's kind of like you're the last to know. I mean, I thought everything was going fine. Work was okay. I wasn't letting my drinking affect anything. Or so I thought. Turns out I needed help.
Drug and alcohol abuse is a major problem in our society, and it has a significant impact in the workplace. Surveys show that 95% of adults claim to have been affected by substance abuse, either in themselves or their family, friends, or coworkers. From a business standpoint, drug and alcohol abuse costs American companies more than $100 billion a year in lost productivity, workplace accidents, insurance premiums and claims, and lost work time. In addition, more than 40% of all industrial injuries are alcohol-related. And while it may seem that drug and alcohol abuse isn't a big thing where you work, consider this. It's estimated that 25% of the nation's workforce has a problem with drugs or alcohol, and 90% of alcoholics and 74% of drug abusers are employed.
In our company, it only takes one underperforming employee to affect our numbers. Recently, productivity and quality in one of our departments declined significantly. Over time, we noticed that the department lead, Angela, was often absent, and coworkers tended to pick up the slack for her. When asked, they'd say she was at a lunch meeting or working at home today.
I've been working with Angela for about 4 years now. She's really fun, good at her job. We became friends just after I started working here. When she became department lead, about a year ago, I was really happy for her.
It's common for drug and alcohol abuse to build slowly, over time, and catch the abuser and his or her family, friends, and co-workers off guard. Friends tend to give abusers the benefit of the doubt, cover up for them, even deny that a problem exists. Sometimes, when co-workers are friends socially, they don't want to admit a problem exists because they don't want to lose that social connection. Now tell me, Angela, what's on your mind?
Well, this is really difficult. I think I might have a problem.
What kind of problem?
It's my drinking, and I don't really know what to do about it.
There are 7 people in our department. It got to the point that everybody knew something was going on with Angela. But because we all liked her, we just kept on covering it up and just tried to keep things going, even though she was becoming less and less involved and less reliable.
I was hired about 3 months ago, and right away I knew something was going on. I have a history of alcoholism in my family, so I recognized some of the signs. But I was the new guy, and I didn't want to make any waves.
Drug and alcohol abuse is a problem that crosses all economic and cultural lines. And abuse in the workplace is a growing problem. According to Department of Labor statistics, 1 in 5 workers report that they've had to work harder, redo work, cover for a coworker, or have been put in danger due to another employee's drinking. So if you're working at a company that employs 50 people, it's possible, even likely, that 10 employees have a problem with drugs or alcohol.
So what made you come forward?
It's weird. It's like everything fell apart all at once.
Tell me about it.
I'd gone out the night before with some friends, and I woke up the next morning feeling pretty hungover. That made me late for an 8:30 appointment with my supervisor.
So the day was off to a bad start.
Yeah, but it got worse. When I finally made it to the meeting, 20 minutes late, my supervisor told me about the poor performance of our department, that if things didn't start to get better, my job would be on the line. That hit me pretty hard.
Most of the time, a situation will snowball before a substance abuser realizes or admits there's a problem. Sometimes we call it bottoming out. And at first, it's common for abusers to make excuses or get defensive when a problem is brought to their attention because they don't want to address the real issue.
I never really thought I had a problem. I mean, I go out a lot. Sometimes I drink too much. It's not like I'm drunk all the time. I mean, I'm not that different from a lot of my friends. And I've never gotten in trouble because of my drinking or gotten hostile or anything.
Tell me more.
After the meeting, I went straight back to my office and Corey came in right away. I could tell something was up. He asked me if there was anything wrong at home or if there was something I wanted to talk to him about. I don't know why, but I just blew up and started yelling at him. It was the first time in 4 years that I've raised my voice to him. I think I knew what Corey was driving at, my drinking, but I couldn't even put 2 and 2 together at that point. I just worked the whole day with my door closed. Actually, I just sat there doing very little. That was an awful day. Then I went home and did what I always do when I have a bad day. I drank.
But what was different that time as opposed to the others?
Of course, I woke up in the morning with another hangover, and I started to think about what had been going on and where my life was going. I realized that my drinking was getting in the way of my job. It was a really difficult thing, but when I got to work, I went in and talked to my supervisor. He gave me some information about where I could go for some help. That's why I'm here. This is a really difficult thing to do, to admit that you might have a problem.
I really didn't want to go to Angela's office that day. A group of coworkers had been talking and everybody knew that her drinking had been getting out of hand. We always thought that we were helping by covering up, but it turns out we were just making the problem worse. I went to her office prepared for the worst. I told myself no matter what she said, I wasn't going to take it personally. I was willing to risk our friendship if it meant that she was going to get some help. Well, when I left, or when she kicked me out, I didn't know what to do. I mean, she didn't even admit that she had a problem at that point. I just wanted her to know that we cared and we were concerned.
It's critical to realize that substance abuse, whether it involves alcohol, illegal drugs, or prescription medications, affects more than just the abuser or addict. It affects family, friends, co-workers, and your employer. If you believe you're abusing or addicted to drugs or alcohol, it's important to realize that help is available. If you work with a drug or alcohol abuser, you can take steps to help him or her. It's human nature to want to help someone who has a drug or alcohol problem by taking on extra work or maybe lending them money. But covering up for an abuser or making excuses for him or her only makes the problem worse. If there's proof that someone's using drugs or alcohol on the job or is clearly intoxicated, report these incidents to a supervisor. If you suspect that drugs or alcohol are affecting a coworker's productivity or hampering his or her ability, talk to your supervisor about the kind of behavior you've observed and how the employee's work is being affected, rather than providing your assumption that drugs or alcohol are involved. For instance, is your coworker's attention to processes or safety slipping? Does he or she seem consistently tired or unmotivated, such that it causes inefficiency? Has productivity or attention to detail suffered noticeably, and how?
Angela, you did a courageous thing by coming here. Now, the rest is up to you.
When I started working here, I remember reading in the orientation packets about the programs the company has in place to help people with drug and alcohol problems.
Angela's like a whole new person. It's like a weight's been lifted from her. She's got our department cranking again, and her energy's amazing, and she even apologized to me. I told her forget about it. I mean, what are friends for?
No one wants to have a drug or alcohol problem, and no company wants its employees or their work to suffer. So it's important that you recognize the warning signs so you can help address the issue as soon as possible. Warning signs include declining job performance, increase in accidents and mistakes, sudden mood swings or personality changes, difficulty getting along with others, physical symptoms such as balance, respiratory problems, and deteriorating appearance, attendance issues and suspicious, secretive behavior, or presence of drugs, alcohol, or paraphernalia.
People with alcohol and drug problems often feel like they have failed, especially if their problem affects their job performance. Many people believe that addiction is a failure of character, when it is not. It is a medical condition that needs to be treated and can be treated. There's no shame in coming forward and seeking help.
You know, I said that day that everything was falling apart. Actually, that's when it came together. I'm staying sober. I feel great. I'm more into my job than I have been in a long time. Once I got help, everything started coming together. My life is good.